Originally in Spanish, 2021. From the earlier conversations with past contactees.
This is more like what the moon really looks like. These images are CGI, and it's sad that they give people a different idea. They hide the truth from them because it bothers them.
Those images are the external structure?
Yes, it has several internal levels, like an onion. Towards the center, there are the life support and engineering systems with the reactor in the center. It's a huge ship. They sell you that as something romantic, but it is a metal ball in disguise.
And why does it have that relay effect? Because of the material used?
Because on the surface, it has all kinds of construction for an infinite number of uses, as if it were a whole city covering its surface, but they're not constructions. It's part of the hull of the lunar spacecraft.
What is the original name of the ship that serves as the moon?
It is Creidilad. It is Andromedan, translated in phonemes. On Earth, interpreted as Welsh goddess. That goddess is surely connected to Diana. Wales, Ireland, and Scotland have strong links to pre-dynastic Egypt and to Atlantis, hence the names. Diana is one of the names for the moon. Creidilad, also known as Creudilad or Creidilad, daughter of King Lud. He is a secondary character in the medieval Welsh tale Culhwch ac Olwen, the oldest Arthurian tale. Diana equals Roman goddess of the moon.
Another conversation. Is it true that the moon is moving away from the Earth every year? Who controls the lunar orbit?
Yes, it is true, or apparently. It is a ship. It happens as with all spacecraft. You have to correct its orbit every so often, or it either falls to Earth or leaves. The lunar orbit is under the control of the Federation on behalf of the Arcturians and Yazhian Diplex, and for 2 years now, to be exact. Before, it was under Taygeta control, and before it was under Centauri control, but always Federation.
Providing that being a damaged ship, the measures of the moon fits well to precession of Earth equinoxes numbers. So it is a universal ratio, or the measures are just one of our astronomy's lies.
The reason it is so perfectly and geometrically placed there, being that it is exactly the diameter of the Sun and its precession, are all carefully planned and executed when placed there in that exact orbit and speed. However, it is not perfect, and it is moving away from Earth at a small rate.
What role did the lunar ship play in the Battle of Tiamat, and why was it destroyed?
it was one of the Federation and Andromedan sphere ships, main bases from where Federation ships operated, as today is the Viera, which is also Andromedan. Only that, being smaller, it is arrowhead type and not spherical. During the Battle of Tiamat, it was the main strategic target. It took multiple hits of different kinds of weapons, including ionizing nuclear weapons, which made it too difficult to repair and clean. The cost in lives during that was very great as well. As the moon is large, it is habitable in areas, but always remembering that it is 100% artificial structure like onion layers inside. That is, spherical shell inside another one until reaching the core, where the main reactors are. There are other smaller ones closer to the surface, but they are no longer of any use. There is evidence that the moon is a hologram. I know it's stretching people's credibility about the hologram covering the moon, making it look natural. I know it is sad and hard to understand from the position of someone deep inside that matrix, but it is the truth. And some astronomers have already noticed it, the presence of a hologram. To say that it is not there is to deny the studies of these mostly amateur astronomers, because the official ones, all of them, and I mean all of them, are controlled by the Vatican. Every major telescope on Earth, in one way or another, is controlled by the Jesuit Illuminati. To continue to believe that the moon is a natural satellite is just ignorance. This can be investigated from Earth. You don't have to take it on faith. The moon is not what it seems. I know it's annoying, but it's the truth. Sure, its orbit is set there. It's a ship. It doesn't obey the same dynamics of a natural moon because it doesn't have equilibrium. It should fall or go out of orbit, and it does. It corrects its orbit like any other spacecraft, like this one as well. About the hidden face, for me, that is just something circumstantial, because the moon is indeed rotating, slowly, but yes. What happens is that no matter if it rotates or not, what you always see is the same hologram. So it seems that there is a hidden face. I've seen NASA photos of the hidden face, full of craters, as if they had glued it hard there on that side and not the front. But those NASA photos, plain and simple, are fake. It is a fantasy. The hologram does not cover the entire lunar sphere, only the part facing the Earth. At the back, it looks like what it is, a metal ball. As a small extra fact, from here in low orbit, we see the moon as you do. We see the hologram. But as we move away, we see that it is the hologram. If we see it from the side, we see the surface details that you know, but distorted. And if we look at the moon completely in profile compared to how it looks from Earth, we clearly notice a luminous layer in front of it, and that only covers the part visible from Earth.
And what technology is present on the moon? What facilities are present on the surface and in the center?
The technology present there is old and crumbling due to lack of maintenance. They are not facilities on the surface. In itself, that concept still confers the idea that it has a natural surface on which to build something, a base, a building. The whole moon, surface and interior, is a construction in itself. It will just have protruding things like a tall building. Sometimes you see them above the hologram. The technology is from the time of Tiamat and earlier, very outdated compared to what is available today on the Andromedan side. It consisted of 12 ancient ionizing reactors, of which 4 are working and poorly, and I think even less than those 4 today, powering the Van Allen band generators and the hologram. The hologram is physically generated by a series of lenses on the lunar surface, not from a single point, where the image is generated or formed by slabs or as a collage of images. In other words, it is not a single hologram, it is a composite of many smaller holograms. The range of influence of the hologram projected by the moon is like the one seen in this image? Yes, more or less. Why more or less? The Earth, like any other planet, has a magnetosphere. Interaction with a magnetic energy source, the moon in this case, with an exact frequency designed on purpose, alters the total output frequency of the magnetosphere. So it is the Earth itself that is providing the energy for the Van Allen bands. So the hologram that is projected by the moon is toroidal as in the picture? The toroid in the image controls the toroid of the Earth's magnetosphere. However, the projection of energy from the moon is more direct, like illuminating the magnetosphere with a beam of light, like from a lamp, not just with the toroid as in the image. The moon is 360,000 kilometers away, far enough to project like this and cover the entire magnetosphere. About the Van Allen bands, important note. Earth is the only planet with Van Allen bands, but people claim this is not true. What happens is that they confuse magnetosphere with Van Allen bands. This is important because the Van Allen bands are formed from the magnetosphere as a base, as I have described above. But they are not the magnetosphere. The difference is that the amount of energy measured in radiation is much greater in the Van Allen bands and of energy and strength too great for planet Earth. That is, the Van Allen bands give off or are compounds of ionizing radiation energy highly dangerous to biology, thereby forming an etheric barrier that prevents low-tech spacecraft from leaving the Earth. While the bands formed naturally by the magnetosphere, whether of the Earth or other planets, are composed of electromagnetic radiation that is not so dangerous to life. It is not completely harmless either, but nothing compared to ionizing radiation. Ionizing radiation means that it is giving off particles that ionize the matter that comes into contact with it, changing its atomic structure, damaging everything. You can see the particles of ionizing radiation as little bullets from all directions, destroying matter, tissues, cells, and the DNA in them. It is the type of a radiation also known as nuclear or from classical radioactive heavy metals such as plutonium, uranium, strontium, and derivatives. Plutonium is derived from uranium, but well. Magnetic radiation, on the other hand, is basically the result of a flux in an electric current. To pass those Van Allen bands, you need high-tech ships that change density, not rocket ships. Those don't go through the bands. The Apollo missions are known to be a lie by pure nuclear physics. They say that what happens is that they went out through the poles, where the radiation is not as strong because it is a toroid. It's true, they are less strong there, but still deadly in the extreme. It doesn't solve the problem leaving through the poles. And the orbit and exit trajectory of the Apollo spacecraft is equatorial, not polar. So no, not that either. It's just lies from NASA.
But you can get out with the portals, yes?
That's right. With the portal, you can jump the Van Allen bands.
So I think the function of the moon is not very useful.
Even though it is hollow and metallic artificial, it does have a lot of mass that is creating or helping to create the tidal effect on the Earth.
And what influence does the moon have on women, and why?
The reason is that the biology of women is very much tied to the influences of subtle magnetic energies. The moon, among its frequencies that it transmits, because it is not just one frequency but many, seems, or there is evidence to suggest that it is transmitting at the exact frequency that influences the reproductive biology of women. In environments without the moon, it is primarily the woman's own energy, her aura or body magnetic toroid, that determines and controls her cycles. But on Earth, those frequencies are functioning as a metronome of control, and as this energy is stronger than the aura, or interferes with the woman's aura, it overrides or controls their reproductive rhythm. In places where there are many women in close proximity, they have a tendency to hormonally and by frequencies as well equalize the timing of their periods. The hormonal aspect here is more evident with how it works than the more subtle energies, but they are there. So, in summary, the moon transmits destructive or controlled frequencies put there specifically to control the human female biology, taking away their ability to control their reproduction only by their own will or mental strength, as many women of other Lyrian races outside of Earth, including the Taygetan, do or achieve. It is in fact a slavery relationship, the one where by right this is supposed to be controlled by the women with the mind, but on Earth they are controlled even there. The Lyrian woman controls her fertility with the mind. It is something that is learned. Not all achieve it when they are young, but in time they do. The moon may be romantic, but the truth is that it is something very dark, unfair, and invasive. The moon is not good for human beings. It is known that enlightenment comes more easily by meditating on a new moon or during an eclipse, because that is when the destructive lunar influence is at a minimum. Buddha is said to have attained enlightenment during a lunar eclipse. On the other hand, they say on Earth that the sun is bad, that it produces cancer, that it leaves you blind, that it produces global warming. that it is about to eliminate everyone with an electronic flare with a magnetic pulse. And they say nothing about the moon. There is nothing wrong with the sun, and that is the beneficial one. Being in the sun nourishes the cells, restores them, gives subtle energies of DNA activation, and with it healing, and also development of extrasensory actions. Everything in excess is bad, yes. Too much sun burns, just don't overdo it. But the sun is the good one here. That's why they try to remove it with chemtrails. They tell people to use sunscreens that cause cancer and that it's bad to be in the sun.
Do they plan to take down the moon at some point or shut down the rest of the remaining reactors?
I have never heard of removing the moon. However, sooner or later, I do see it feasible or necessary, because it is a lot of work to be keeping it in stable orbit artificially. Shutting down the reactors, if it is not done in a short time, a few decades at most, they will stop working anyway. That technology is falling apart over the years.